Hey everyone, welcome to the Oasis Podcast. I'm your host, Miss AJ. Thanks for tuning in. An oasis is something that provides refuge, relief, or a pleasant contrast, and that is exactly what you will find tuning into the Oasis Podcast. This is a space where I and special guests will be cultivating intentional and honest conversations about life's journey. Subscribe everywhere you listen to podcasts and watch us on YouTube now. Hey y'all, hey. I'm back again and again and again and again and again. I told y'all, I am committed. I am committed to this podcast, and I really feel like now I have a little more footing. I have a little more stability when it comes to certain things. So I'm trying to churn out, and I feel empowered. I feel good in releasing these episodes, and I feel like it's really touching the people that I needed to touch, and so this feels good to release. Are you feeling overwhelmed by the demands of life, motherhood? At AJO Consulting Services, LLC, we offer comprehensive wellness services that include personalized coaching, doula care, consulting, and personal professional development to help you navigate this beautiful yet challenging phase of life. Our services are designed to support individuals and communities, especially women, birthing people, and families of color, in creating a more joyful and stress-free experience. From family planning to postpartum care, we provide the tools and resources you need to thrive. Let AJO Consulting Services help you prioritize your well-being and create a healthier, happier future for yourself and your family. These episodes. So, happy Halloween. Happy Halloween. So, it is honestly befitting that I'm releasing this episode on Halloween Day. Because the burp is scary as fuck. All right, before I jump in, I'm gonna give disclaimer again, because these are triggering topics for some people, and I truly understand it because I am one of those people. So I will be sharing some details. You know, some things may be graphic, I don't know, but just to pre-warn you, that is the case. This is what this episode is going to consist of. Also, these are my personal thoughts, feelings, and experiences. I may reference research or data or whatever. However, these are my personal thoughts, feelings, and experiences. If you do not agree, that is fine. If you don't like what I'm saying, you can listen to something else. Click off. That's fine. What will not be happening is I will not be bullied or told that I should not feel or think what I think and feel and have experienced. This ain't that, and it's not never gonna be that. Okay? So, for those who are still sticking around for the rest of this episode, thank you. I look forward to sharing my story with you. Those who this does not resonate with, I bid you farewell, and go ahead and enjoy something else that might sit better with you. All right. So, last episode, I left off. Where did I leave off? It doesn't matter. I'll kind of maybe I'll go back a little bit just to kind of start repainting the picture again. So, I was due to give birth. I had 2 due dates. One was on a Sunday, which was the date that the hospital gave, but that was technically the second due date. The first due date was, at the time, supposed to be for the Tuesday. No, Wednesday? Was it Wednesday? 2 days apart. So it was 2 days difference. So that date was given by the fertility clinic. Throughout this whole pregnancy, technically been following the hospital's due date because that is who was responsible for my care. However, I did know I had this second due date, the day that the hospital gave that I was supposed to give birth. As I mentioned before, nothing was really happening. And I was over it by this point. So again, I had my doula. I had a birth and postpartum doula, Ebony and Ebony. Yes, I know y'all like, what? But they're two separate people, and we're amazing. So they kind of gave me tips and tools, as well as my midwives. But like, all right, here are some things you can do to, kickstart labor if you need to. Now, prior to the actual day, there are things that once you reach a certain point in your journey, that you start doing certain things to help prepare your body for labor, opening up your hips on a fitness ball, eating dates to help you to pretty much soften the cervix quicker. You can drink raspberry leaf tea, as that also helps like tone the uterus to make the contractions strong enough to do what they need to do. So there's different things you can do, and depending on where you're receiving care, they may suggest them. If you have a doula, they may suggest them, and there's tons of other different things too. Trust me, there's like so many different things you can try. I forget there's a circuit that you can do, which not circuit, and I forget the full name of it, but you can also do to get labor going or to do certain things to prep yourself. I didn't do all that. I didn't need to do a lot of the stuff. I did eat the dates. I did drink the raspberry leaf tea. I did use the fitness ball. That's why I mentioned these things are the things I personally did do. And I also did the curb walking. Now, I tried to, my heart, like I said, I remember I felt like as big as a house when I was pregnant. And when you are that for long, you feel humongous and you're super heavy, and that child is pressing down on your pelvis. So I would try, because walking is another thing that they tell you to do, right? To get your body prepped, to get the baby prepped and ready and go and stuff for birth. So, you try to take daily walks. So that's what I did that day. It was in May, so it was a pretty decent day. So I decided to walk to the park, and while I was doing that, I did something called curb walking. It's hard to explain curb walking, or maybe I just can't explain it, but you can look it up of how exactly it's done. But baby, that thing worked. Okay? So I did it on the way to the park. By the time I was coming back home, I started feeling pain. And I'm like, oh, okay. All right. This is going down, right? So, and I mean, for me, when I say I'm going to say this, like, pain-wise, and again, I've never given birth before, so in my mind, I felt like things progressed fast. But then as I keep telling my story, you're going to realize it didn't, right? So, like I said, on my way back to my house, pain was kicking in, like serious pain. So I'm like, all right, things is popping off. Now, by the time that night came, and I'm talking about, it might have been between 12 and like, I want to say between 12 and like 2 a.m. because I feel like around 4 a.m. my doula was here. So between 12 and 2 a.m., like the pain didn't let up. Like from the time I got back in my house, which was like early afternoon, the pain was there. Like it was consistently like coming. You know what I mean? And that's why I said last episode, they tell you things gonna happen one way, but you are a unique individual. Your body is your own. Your body gonna do what it want to do. That baby gonna do what it want to do. So a lot of things didn't happen how you read that it's supposed to happen, for me at least. So I'm thinking, okay, all right, contractions are supposed to come. They're supposed to be timed. They have the certain time, and they tell you to time your contractions to make sure this and that. Let me tell you how these things were not going how these people were telling me they're supposed to go. So I was highly confused. Granted, like I said, I ain't never had a baby before. And so by the time I feel like I was in communication with my doula. It was late. I might have hit her up in that night, but before it got really late, just to give her a heads up. And then I hit her up again, like, yeah, the pain is like, it seems to be increasing. And I was timing it. And based on what the readings were, it seemed like things were going. So she ended up getting to the house late, but like technically it was early morning. And I had a doctor's appointment later that day. So, we're there talking, and just, talking through. She's observing, seeing how I'm doing, seeing if it's a real labor or not. Ended up literally, by the time I feel like it was like 5 or 6 or something like that, but I just remember after she got here for a little bit, the pain just stopped. Now I'm telling you, from that afternoon up until like 5, 6 a.m., I was in consistent pain. And then it all stopped. I said, oh, all right, cool. So not today. Okay, cool. So now I have a doctor's appointment. And, I think I also speak to my midwives and I tell them what happened. And they're like, no, go to the appointment. I wasn't sure, should I go? Should I not go? Like, go to the appointment, see what they say, see how things go, da-da-da. But they're like, this and that and third, whatever. We can talk about that another point. But I like midwives. At least the midwives I had. Once again, I went to ULA. They're very real. They keep it real with you. And they're very conscious about the Black maternal health crisis. And so that's always in the forefront. They don't ignore your race, your culture, your ethnicity, because they don't see color. Because you have to see color in order to treat me. I'm Black. So there's certain things that they're like, to mention and not to mention, because they know how hospital systems work, so they don't want me to be like rushed to the ER or certain things that happen, because they know that can increase the risk of C-section and all that stuff. And they know I didn't want a C-section. So prior to, when you have a doula or not, like my midwives also did this with me, but so depending on where you get care, you can create a birth plan. And again, we all know when you make a plan, God laughs at your ass, but it's nice to have. It gives you a sense of calm and peace, to be 100% honest, right? But you can create a birth plan, and what that looks like, it can be long, it can be short. It really depends on you. But you can put down the things you definitely want or don't want to happen during birth, while you're in the hospital, and you can create a postpartum plan as well. And so big things for me were, I do not want a C-section. I did not want pain medication, unless that was the absolute last resort. I wasn't fit to play myself, because again, I'm not a person who like medications, but I'm gonna take some if I need it. Okay, so, but it was like, had to be the last resort. What else did I have on there? Just different things, because again, it was COVID time, so who I wanted to be there with me, the things I wanted to take with me, what type of environment I wanted in the hospital, just stuff like that. So let me also include, I had to give birth in the hospital. That's what you heard. I had to. Why? Remember I said I was 36, turning 37 when I had my daughter, and I was considered advanced maternal age, aka geriatric pregnancy. And that's not the only reason, because there's other women who have more options and don't have to give birth in the hospital, even though they are, in their 30s, late 30s rather. But because of that, and I have a history of fibroids, my insurance would not pay if I wanted to give birth if I wanted a home birth, which I technically had wanted. Like, I wanted to give birth at home. This is where I'm comfortable. This is where I'm happy. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want tons of people in my face, in my room. But that was shut down real early. The insurance was not with it. It's not gonna happen. And I wasn't fit to pay that bill by myself. So, hospital it is. Okay? But this is why I took real care to choose the people giving me care. Like, I went, I interviewed places, if that makes sense. Like, I went to places, I went to the orientations. I got a feel of people, doctors, centers. I also tried a birthing center. But if something didn't feel right to my spirit, I didn't go with it. If the reviews ain't hit, I said I'm good. And so I feel like ULA was like the best choice for me. It was the best choice. And like, by the end of the story, like, I feel like you'll probably feel and understand why. But when I say 5 stars, 5 stars. I have no complaints with ULA, and I have no complaints with no complaints with ULA, period. The hospital, I'm gonna give them a 4.5 out of 5 stars. They were for the most part, really good. The nurses and people who cared for me, but not everybody. And again, you know how that works. And those who might work in a hospital or, have gotten care in a hospital, everybody ain't usually on the same accord. And so there was an instance, what I'll talk about later, that rubbed me wrong. But I'll explain that later. But overall, great experience. And so they're like, go to your appointment, do what you got to do. They can kind of also, because at this point, when you get to a certain point in your pregnancy, they start to monitor your uterus to see contractions, because you're continuously having contractions. You just don't always feel them, right? And so they're monitoring you to see, because sometimes you may be in labor and not know because you're just not having pain. Like, everybody's birth and labor is not painful, and that's also a misconception that people have. There's some women, and this is a whole thing I looked into. Again, like I said, I'm a postpartum doula, so there's certain things that I like to know because I want to know. And I just love reproductive health. And there's some women who have orgasmic births. Like, that's how much so it does not hurt, right? To the point that it brings them ecstasy. There's women who it just does not hurt, and it's a quick process. It's a boop, boop, boop. God bless these women, because I was not one of them. Okay. But, so, they have to monitor, because again, some women could be in labor and not know. And so they want to make sure, everybody's safe. So they'll check you'll be hooked up for them to measure your contractions to see. They see other things too. They're also checking the vitals of the baby. So that was the type of appointment it was, because I was already 40 weeks. So they're checking and they're seeing I'm having contractions, this and that and third, but nothing is alarming to them. And at this point, the pain has stopped, right? So, okay, cool. I go to this appointment, finish the appointment. We go get some food. And by this point, the doula is no longer there. It's me and my child's father that's there. And, well, he's waiting for me. And I go, I'm like, all right, I guess it's not happening today. It is what it is. We go get some food and go home, because the hospital's in the city. I live in Brooklyn. So, all right, cool. Go get some food. Go home. I'm like, all right, guess it's not happening. It is what it is. I feel like it's either on the ride home or when I get home. I think I still feel fine. I get home, I'm eating, just laying, relaxing, eating. Remember I told y'all, after a certain amount of weeks, I was wearing my diaper, so I still have my diaper on. I didn't go outside without it, because y'all not catching me slipping out here. Okay, so I was home chilling, this and that third, eating, and then I remember I went to the bathroom and I had a contraction. No, I'm missing something. I missed the whole part. Before, I called my midwives for a reason. Before I went to the appointment. So when I believe I was getting ready for my appointment, this is where it gets a little gory. I don't know, y'all. If you don't like gory, fast forward. I passed, at the time I didn't know what it was. I thought it was my water breaking, because I got a gush, a boop of something. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, what is this? I don't know. I called my midwives and they're like, oh, it's probably, and I think that's what they identified as, it's your mucus plug. And so I'm like, oh, okay. So something is happening, but the pain has stopped by this point. So I'm like, nothing is actively happening. So now there's different stages of labor also that, people need to know. Again, how they show it to you on TV and all this stuff. It don't happen like that. It just don't go like that. It's such a long process. Oh, excuse me, let me rephrase that. It can be such a long process, and it's definitely a longer process than what is illustrated to us on TV and such, and movies and whatnot. But again, some women, it's 1, 2, 3 for them, but not everybody. And the different things that can happen may not all happen in the same order as well. For me, as I continue to explain, in some ways it happened in the right, quote unquote, not to say right, there's no right or wrong, but it happened in the order that was explained, but not in the way that it was explained. So typically you get pain, you lose your mucus plug. So that's what I just did. I had lost my mucus plug when the midwives explained to me, because I took a picture of it and I talked to them. They're like, oh, it's probably a mucus plug. I thought my water broke because of how it felt. It was like a gush, even though it was not like a lot of water, quote unquote, because not water, it's amniotic fluid, but they say water. And because it was a gushing feeling, I thought that's what it was. No, it's a mucus plug, even though it was thick. It didn't have like a lot of blood. They say it has like blood in it. It didn't really have like a lot of blood. It was a little pinky, but it looked mainly clearly kind of like discharge, vaginal discharge, but like a lot of it. So I'm like, okay, that happened. So that's when the midwives were like, go to your appointment still. Don't tell them that you lost your mucus plug, because they might then try to make you go into labor and delivery. Now, why would they say this? They were actually looking out for me, and I knew this already, but they did the right thing. So it was nice to know that they did do the right thing. And by that meaning, the sooner you go into the hospital, the more likely you are to have a C-section. Okay? So the thing with C-sections are they're fast and you get paid a lot of money for them. If you need a C-section, by all means, have one. But to do C-sections electively, meaning because, I don't want to push, or I don't want to give birth, or whatever, listen, that's your right. Do your thing. I just want people to be more informed on these decisions. C-sections is a major surgery. They're cutting through, I believe it's like 8 layers. Okay? It takes a long time to heal from. I know women who have had C-sections and that area is still numb to this day, and their kids are like teenagers. Okay? I know women who have phantom pain from those C-sections. You can have a scar. So it's not something to take lightly and to do like it's something like getting your nose pierced or something. It's a big deal. And because the maternal health crisis that we're going through, and because Black women are dying way too often, especially in New York City. Again, we have had another death recently at Woodhull Hospital that happened after a C-section. If it's not done right, if it's not done with care, you can die from it. So it's not something to be taken lightly. Vaginal birth is actually safer. Okay? Longer? Yeah, it might be. But it's safer in a lot of ways. But again, do what feels right to you. And if you need a C-section, by all means, please get the C-section. But really thoroughly think about the decision first. And also look at the stats of the hospital that you go to for the C-sections. See if it's something that they just do all willy-nilly. Look at how many C-sections they do versus natural births. Look at their their mortality rates. So just look at certain things. There's certain stats and things you can look up to see what type of place you're at and if it's a safe place to do what you need to do there. Okay? So anyway, back to the story. They let me know this. Don't, because they might rush you to the ER or to the, they have a labor and delivery ER and whatever. And, things can happen there that you may not want, right? Bet. You right? So I go there, but by this point, I'm not really feeling the pains and stuff anymore, as I explained. So now let's fast forward. Now I'm back home. I'm eating. I'm chilling. I think I'm cool. We think we good. I'm like, all right, nothing happened today. Whatever. So now it's Monday. So we're past the due date that the hospital gave. I did not give birth on that day. So now I'm eating. I'm in the house. I go to the bathroom to use the bathroom. And I think I had just eaten. And it's been a while at this point. I don't even have to take my meds anymore because I wasn't vomiting anymore like that. I go to the bathroom after I finish eating. Guess what I do? vomit. The food was banging too. It was some Thai food. It was hitting. I was mad. Okay, so I vomit. And I'm like, ugh. I haven't done this in a minute. But that's also a sign of labor when you vomit. Okay. Then after I vomit, right after, I get this contraction. I'm like, oh, okay. Again, the pain it don't feel good. But like I said, my pain tolerance is pretty high. So I'm able to deal with it. I get a contraction, but this time I have the contraction and then I get a gush of liquid. And I'm like, uh-oh. I have on my diaper though. So thank God, because it catches all this mess. And so I'm like, uh-oh. And I'm like telling my child's father, I'm like, hey, yeah, something's happening. Right? And so now I've contacted my doula and I'm like, this is what just happened. So this is happening now. So it happens a good, I think, 3 to 4 times, and every single time more liquid. Now, in hindsight, now I know what it is. At the time I wasn't 100% sure, but this is my water breaking. I didn't know your water could break like that. And by that meaning, usually they show you a woman's walking or she's yelling in pain, oh my God, and then her water breaks, goosh. Or she's doing something and her water breaks, goosh. And that's that. And no, it came in like spurts. Then, yeah, so it came in spurts. And then it's also women who water doesn't break at all. And their water has to be broken before they give birth. So everyone doesn't have the same experience. Again, that's why I want to throw this in there. What they, in quotation marks, say may not be what your experience is. Okay. So now my water breaks. This is official. I tell my midwives. I tell my doula. So now it's like, I bet. What y'all probably thinking? Run to the hospital. It's time. No, it's not. Again, more things that I already knew. I learned about. Again, your midwives talk through as well. Your water breaking does not mean that you're about to have a baby right now. You technically have up to, I think it's like 24 hours before you have to go to the hospital. Now, that is only if you are, what is that? There's a test that they do for you when you're pregnant to check if you have this particular bacteria in your cervix. If you are positive, then you need to go to the hospital within a certain time frame, because you do not want the baby to come and be exposed to that particular bacteria. It's a naturally occurring bacteria, but it's not good for the baby if the baby is exposed to it. But if you are negative, you have up to like 24 hours. You don't need to rush to the hospital, because if the baby does come, they won't be exposed to the bacteria. You're fine. I was negative. I can't remember the names of these things. It's been a while, y'all. But I was negative. So I'm like, all right, I don't have to rush. And remember what I said. You don't go to the hospital sooner, because 2 things can happen. If you're lucky and you're not ready to give birth, they'll send your ass back home. If you're lucky. But I lived in Brooklyn, and the hospital that I went to was in like Midtown. I'm not doing that. I'll be mad if they send my ass home. 2, you're more likely to get a C-section, and I definitely didn't want that shit. So I stayed my ass in the house and rolled out these contractions. Now these contractions, baby, they were all over the goddamn place. Okay. Now they're like, oh, they will intensify. Oh, they come between this time and that time. My contractions were strong. They were falling within this, I forget, again, like I said, this time, they gotta be for like a minute. I forget the timing. But they were all happening like this. So in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, okay, the baby trying to come. Okay, cool. I ride it out for quite a few hours. So from the time when my water breaks, it's like early afternoon. I ride it out up until it is, I feel like it's after 5, 6. I feel like it was about to be, or it was rush hour by the time we decided to leave to go to the hospital. And that decision was made because the pain was intensifying very much so. And I wasn't getting any breaks between the contractions. So they usually tell you, okay, you get contractions and then you get essentially you get a break. It's timing between the contractions. All this stuff is important to determine how close you are to labor. I was not getting no breaks between these contractions. One would finish and then another one would start immediately. What the hell? And so I'm like, okay, I don't know what's going on, but I don't want to, when it's time for me to really be in labor again. The hospital is like driving, it's like an hour away, and I don't want to be on the road having to deal with this nonsense. And so my partner at the time, the doula, and myself, I'm like, all right, made a decision, let's just go now. So spoke to the midwife, they're like, all right, come through. And so I ended up going. All the while I'm in the back seat losing my mind, because I just needed to be able to like sprawl out in the back seat, and these contractions is coming, like the pain is just like intensifying, coming, intensifying. By this point, I already had I should mention these things. I already had my like hospital bag and all this stuff ready. So all the stuff was already prepped and ready to go from however long ago. I got them ready. And so everything was really just a get up and go type situation. So on the way there, get to the hospital, I did some pre-triage work because the midwives made us do that because this is a hospital they're affiliated with, so they already had the paperwork. So they kind of helped with the process. So it wasn't too long that I had to sit and wait. And also, I forgot to mention in the last episode, I had to go, these are things that I want to mention because I also want people to be aware of these things. In my life, I've never had to be admitted to a hospital for anything. I visited the ER my whole life one time ever, and I was actually in adulthood where I was dehydrated. I used to have really bad cycles. I had a really bad cycle. I was apparently dehydrated. I was in college when this happened, still living at home, and I passed out, and I had to go to the hospital. I passed out. I was just in so much pain, I remember. And then my mother ended up like, okay, I'm gonna take her to the hospital. And my mother's not a take her to the hospital type person, so she must have been really concerned. And so we ended up going to the ER, and I ended up passing out at the ER. That was the first time that ever happened to me. But come to find out, I was super dehydrated. First time ever. Since that incident, I've never ever been to the hospital for anything. I've never been to ER, whatever. This pregnancy, I was in them people hospital. I feel personally way too many freaking times. Okay, and I'm not a hospital girly. I don't like the hospital. I don't like it, but I had to do what I had to do. Okay, I had to go because during the pregnancy, ended up getting a UTI, which happens because of your organs being squished and pushed and this and that. And I was having bad pain when I would urinate, so I had to go to the ER, which was an ordeal. ERs are not funded. You get a little preferential treatment when you pregnant, but I also, thank God, had some connection, so they were able to push me through a little bit faster, but it was an ordeal. Then I had to go to the ER again because remember I told you about this fibroid pain, so I had to make sure something was wrong with this baby. So I had that incident, and the pain was so much so that I had to go to the ER for that. And then now I'm giving birth. In one life event, I've already now been into the hospital way too many times. That's how I feel. Okay, so I go to the hospital, and they do their regular triage, this and that, third. They are figuring out XYZ, yada yada. Cool. Get there. So what they do is they check you. So now my midwives, there's a certain amount of checks, and there's certain things that are done that have been done throughout quote unquote the history of women giving birth that are unnecessary things. And so the midwives are very conscious about what they do and how often they do it because it's not necessary, some of these things. And so when I got there, they did check to see did they check immediately? Yes, they did. They checked to see how far along I was. They checked, they monitored some things to see, okay, is she in true labor? Is it this, and that, third? So when I got to the hospital, I was effaced, which means the softening and the thinning of the cervix. That was pretty good because of them dates. I was eating them dates. Them things is nasty. At least they were nasty to me when I was pregnant. They were just super sweet and had kind of flavor to me, but that could have been me. My mouth when I was pregnant, the taste in my mouth was just off, just super off. But I wasn't really dilated like that. But the pain was just coming and coming, and I'm like, yo. So my midwife was like, do you want to go back home? Because you're not ready to give birth yet. You're not dilated enough. I don't remember how far dilated I was, but it wasn't far, child. It was not nowhere near. You have to be dilated. Was it 10 centimeters? And that's literally the size. So how big your cervix needs to be open so the baby's head can come out. And I think I was between 1 and 3 or something like that. It was not far at all. But the pain was just happening back to back. So I was like, you know what? I don't want to travel back to Brooklyn just to have to come back here, because that ride was not fun in the backseat. So she was like, all right, I'll see if I can get you to stay. Cool. She was able to get me to stay. And that's important. Now, having a health professional that has a relationship with the hospital where they're able to get you the care that you need without the fear of you getting some type of procedure that you didn't want is so important. It's such a blessing that I didn't want to not mention, because I did not take it for granted, because they could have easily sent my ass back home. Or if it was just, because you're not guaranteed, let me rephrase that. A lot of people don't realize that just because your doctor takes care of you, and by doctor your OB takes care of you, and you have chosen to to give birth at a hospital, just because they've been taking care of you your whole pregnancy doesn't mean that's going to be the person that is going to deliver your baby. Because doctors have their own schedule, they have their own lives. They may or may not be at the hospital there that day. They may not even be working. They may be on vacation. They may not be available. You don't know. So you may get a completely different individual, quote unquote, helping you give birth that don't even know you. You know what I'm saying? And that to me was not something I wanted to deal with. And I chose ULA specifically because they have multitude of midwives, and so when you see them, you see all the midwives, so you get to become acquainted with every single one of them. They do have an OB, but you don't see the OB every day. The OB is only presented to you. Again, she was presented to me because, again, I was advanced maternal age. I had fibroids. So there were like 1 or 2 times I did have to meet with her. But everyone else I saw was the midwives. Why is that important? Because at any given time you do go give birth, you are with someone who is already giving you care. You get what I'm saying? It's not some random individual, which was super important to me. Another thing was they have a relationship with the hospital. They have a special relationship. Like ULA was catered to this specifically, especially for the maternal health crisis that's going on. So they have a special relationship with the hospital to allow, I think, a little more leeway. You understand, when it comes to procedures and protocol. And so that was also essential. So she was able to let me stay there, and they didn't bother me in regards to, and granted, because there was not a lot of births happening around that time too, so thank God for that. So they didn't need the room, but they were allowed me, I was able to continue to labor at the hospital, but at my own pace without people harassing me and bothering me. Blessing. Like I said, I would recommend them 10 times over. So I was able to stay at the hospital. They got me my own room. Again, I didn't have to share a room because that's not guaranteed. But wait, is that true? I feel like by this point, they tell you there's a possibility you have to, but I never needed to, thank God. So I was able to have my own room and was able to be there laboring. So pain is happening back to back. Shit don't feel good. Now I get into my own room, like my private room. I was like in triage, and then they put me into a private room. And, they're just checking in with me, checking my vitals, XYZ, making sure this, making sure that. And, monitoring the baby as needed. And by this point, it is now Monday night. And they checked me. Pain is wild. Guess what, y'all? I've been laboring since Sunday, technically. I'm still not dilated enough. And on my pain scale, I'm at I'm gonna say I was at like a 8.5. And I was only, I think from the time I got to the hospital till hours later when they rechecked me, I probably dilated an extra 1 centimeter. I said hell to the no. By this point, I'm shaking. That's how bad the pain is. The contractions are coming back to back to back. And that's how it's been since I started. I literally didn't get a break. So why is that important? It lets your body recover from the pain of what's going on. My body did not get a chance to recover. So I'm literally getting contraction after contraction, and my body doesn't get a time to rest, to breathe. I'm getting pain to pain. Like, it was just so bad. To go use the bathroom, to do anything, I was so afraid to move. Like, I'm holding on to stuff because contractions just keep coming. It was so painful that my body started to shake from the pain. You know what I did? Epidural. And I didn't want it, but I'm gonna tell you something. I am 1000% happy I did it. Yup. Let me tell y'all something. Women who are pregnant, be open to changing as needed. Do what you need to do for yourself. I didn't think I was going to do epidural. I didn't want to do epidural, but I am 1000% happy I did that epidural, because I did not end up giving birth until the next day, almost 5 p.m. the next day. I did not dilate fully until the following day, and my pain, and I told you on my scale, was already at like an 8.5. I would have, and I've been laboring since Sunday. No, hell no. When I tell you, my doula was there, my partner at the time was there, and they both knew what I wanted and didn't want. I was like, epidural. Are you sure?
As a new mother, you deserve to focus on bonding with your baby and healing your body. Our compassionate postpartum doula services provides you with the support and care you need. From newborn care to light household chores, our doulas will allow you to rest, recover, and enjoy the precious moments with your little one. Benefits of our postpartum doula services are personalized care tailored to your specific needs, relief from household chores and newborn care, emotional support and guidance, increase bonding time with your baby. Experience the gift of rest and support with postpartum doula services at AJO Consulting Services now.
That's one. Epidural. And they gave me a little time. Are you sure? Epidural. Let me tell y'all how that's a big thing for me. I hate needles with a passion. And baby, going through that IUI process, way too many needles for me. And it wasn't even that many, because thank God I ain't go through IVF. Too much needles for me. I knew what to expect with the epidural. And when I tell you I took it gleefully, epidural. And by this point, these people, so this is part of why I said the hospital got a 4.5. For some strange reason, I'm always told throughout my life that I have good veins. I got good veins. Why did it take them too many tries to connect my IV? So now I'm going through labor pains and I'm being poked consistently for them to find a good vein. I was not very nice. I'm going to be 100% honest with you. I was not very nice. I'm like, what the hell is y'all doing? They didn't get a good vein until the, what are they called? Anesthesiologists, I think they were called, came in, found the vein. When I tell you they found in like 2.5 seconds, they went bloop, bloop, put in my IV. but they had to do the epidural needle in twice. I guess a lot of people have some variation of scoliosis, but it's not severe enough where it caused me like major issues growing up or anything. But I do have like this, my spine is more curved than others, and so they like inserted the first time and they hit that bone. Didn't feel good. What the fuck? But that's like, I was willing to endure this shit to get that medicine. You understand what I'm saying? So they had to do it twice. But once that hit my system, baby, I was on the lowest dose my whole time that I was laboring and gave birth to my daughter. The lowest. And I was on cloud 9. When I tell you, everybody, my doula, my child's father, nurses, and people who were like there with me, they were like, "Oh my gosh, you look so much better." I was smiling now. My whole affect, my whole demeanor was so much more pleasant once I get that epidural. I have no regrets. None. No regrets whatsoever. I was on the lowest dose throughout that whole time. I didn't feel like, your legs do feel numb, but I also still had feeling in my legs, if that makes sense. I was still able to move my legs, and typically you're not supposed to, so I don't know. But I was still able to move my legs around and do all that stuff. And when you're on an epidural, you have to have more movement and stuff so that, you don't, for the baby, which is important, but for your own self, for your, circulation and stuff like that. So I was able to like do some of that my own. Granted, they still helped you, but I was still able to do some more of it than typical. And so by this point now, I'm able to like actually sleep. So I also need to explain, from Sunday up until this point, I wasn't able to sleep. I wasn't able to rest. Nothing. So I'm exhausted on top of dealing with all this pain. The last thing I really ate was that Thai food that I vomited. So I'm hungry as hell, too. So it's like so much going on. I needed an epidural just to give myself a breather. And they also put me on Pitocin because I needed to dilate. Well, I didn't need to do nothing. I decided to do it. Again, I talked through it with my doula, which is another reason to have your doula. And there's another thing to also be considerate of. Hospitals be quick to be like, all right, put you on Pitocin. No, that needs to be a decision you want. Pitocin is something that help you dilate faster, but it also can be more painful. And a lot of times, if the Pitocin doesn't work how they want it to work for you, you can get a C-section. So I just want to throw that out there. I did decide to do the Pitocin. We decided, the midwives and I, and everyone decided, let's watch it, keep it low, let's see how it goes. Was on the Pitocin. Things were gradually going as they needed to go once I got on the Pitocin, because after a few hours after epidural, I still wasn't dilating. So I said, you know what, let's go ahead and do it. And so after I got on Pitocin, things started moving better. Was able to take a nap, praise God, and woke up the next day. And so now this is Tuesday, which is the day that my fertility specialist said I should, go into labor or give birth. And so my due date, technically. And so, all right, wake up. I'm like, all right, cool. Oh, I didn't mention. Okay. It's part of the birth story, so I'm going to share it. So after my water broke, family and stuff, again, the people who were quote unquote all in your face about being pregnant and stuff, they are now heavily invested in you giving birth now, right? Because people want to meet the baby, and so giving them, step by step, not necessarily step by step, but like giving them updates about what's going on, how things are going, because a lot of these people are old school folk that haven't given birth in who knows how long, haven't had children who knows how long, so they don't know the new things, how things are done now. And so after they hear that my water broke, they are in a tizzy about, oh my God, you gotta go to the hospital. No, I don't. So now people they think they are, I don't know what they thought they were going to do, try to strong arm me into going to the hospital immediately after my water breaks. No, that's not how that works, number one. Number two, that's not what I want. So they are trying to pressure me into, or my partner at the time, about, oh, get to the hospital, you gotta go. Absolutely not. So by this point, no, not by this point, because I started putting in boundaries before this, but of course, people be having selective amnesia. But I made clear who will and will not be in a hospital room with me, who will and will not be available around me after I gave birth. And so there were certain boundaries to put in. And so now at this point, I'm no longer entertaining conversations of people trying to tell me or asking me incessant questions about, oh, what's going on now? I shut that down. My child's father, I'm like, you can answer whatever you want to, but before you do, we have a conversation about what you're sharing with people, because information travels like wildfire, and we'll make a decision about what to share and when to share it. Cool. So I stopped really answering certain messages, because people calling all this stuff. Why do you think I want to talk to you while I am in pain? Why do you think I need to have explained myself as a grown individual who's planned this out, who's been dealing with this every day, who created this plan, who understands what's happening? Why do you feel that I need to get permission from you to do what I need to do for myself? And I say this to say, be very clear and sure about who's going to be there for you, around you while you're birthing, going through labor. Put your boundaries in place, and if and when you have to, put your goddamn foot down, because people will think that it is their right, that they are entitled to your experience. You understand what I'm saying to you? Absolutely not. No one has the right to be there but you and that child's father, and whoever you choose to, a doula or whomever else. Outside of that, no one is entitled to your birthing experience. Okay? Don't let anyone force you. Don't let anyone guilt you into anything otherwise, because it is a stressful enough situation on your body and that child as is, because it is trauma for you and that baby to give birth. Birth is there's literally a thin line during labor of life and death. And I actually had, I'm feeling emotional. See, there they go. There it comes. We'll talk to you guys about that. But you do not need anyone stressing you, whatever the intent is. No. So please, those who are pregnant currently, those who are almost at the finish line, put your boundaries in place. Make it clear and keep reiterating it. You are grown, number one. Number two, it is your experience. It don't belong to nobody else. You are allowing people into that experience. It is not their right. End of story. All right, so they are, that's important, because it also adds on other layers as I continue to tell more of my story. Birth, coming home, postpartum. So now I get to the hospital. Now, I made clear to everybody. Now, this is both sides of the families. Everybody. Hey. And this is another reason why having a doula is also important, because if you are not the type of person to be that strong with your boundaries, your doula can do it for you. Okay? But I ain't had the problem. So I made clear it'll be me, my doula, my partner. Nobody else is coming to the delivery room or anything like that. It makes no sense to come to the hospital, because they're not going to let you upstairs to do nothing. You're literally just going to be sitting there. You're never going to be allowed in, because I'm not going to allow it. Everyone knew this. But guess what? Guess what people did? Blatantly disregard what I said. So I get to the hospital, I'm laboring, I'm going through this, and like those hours before I get the epidural, I'm laboring, going through it. They're blowing up his phone now. Why? Why are you blowing up the phone? Oh, because now they're at the hospital. To do what? What are you here for? What are y'all gonna do? All they doing is stressing people out. Not me, because I wasn't dealing with none of that. But they hit up, and so he kind of giving me some, feedback here and there about like, oh, this, oh, that. Why the hell would y'all do that? And I'm talking about, this is his parents, this is my parents. What? And some of my other family members. Didn't I tell y'all not to come? Didn't I tell y'all no? I said no. No. But they still did what they want to do. In vain, because guess what? They sat there for hours and then had to go right back on home. You wouldn't have wasted your time if you would have just listened. What did they think? I was going to change my mind? I don't know. Why, you ask? Why wouldn't you want your mother there? Or no. Remember what I just said? Don't bring no one into that space that's going to stress you out. My mother would have stressed me out because everything would have been a fire that needed to be taken out. Everything would have, no. Be cognizant of who you have around you that's not going to add stress to you in an already stressful, tension-filled situation. Okay? Love her, but no. There's certain situations, there's certain people I'm not inviting into the space. So, they did all that. They finally, after hours and hours, and they realized, yeah, birth takes time. They went home. So now next day, picking up, still feeling pretty good. I'm like, all right, cool. And they check again. I'm still not dilated far. I went further, of course, but still not like that far. All right, cool. We upped the Pitocin a little bit, and that was the plan. That was what discussed with the midwife. Very incremental, small incremental increases. We're not jumping the gun and ODing, because that is what hospitals like to do. Because they need the more patients, the more money. They want to speed up your birth so that they can fill the room with someone else. So that is something to be mindful of, okay, if you are birthing in a hospital. So now, just had a check. They said, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to like go up, I think, by half. I don't know what these measurements are, but it wasn't full, I don't know how to explain this. It was by halves. We were going to increase the Pitocin, so not like full numbers, if that means. So not by one or twos, but like half now and then go another half. That was what was discussed. That was what was written down. Cool. A little while passed, and then my doula kind of looks at the meds and how it's coming, and she's like, And this is, doulas are here to give suggestions. They're here to give you information, and you make a decision. So she kind of brought it to my attention that that looks different than what was agreed. And so I realized that, and so I was able to then let my midwife or the nurse know. Now, this is another reason why they got a 4.5. It was in the order. It was in my documentation. This is what was happening. The nurse decided to up it more so. Now, how intentful was it? Like, purposeful? Did she do that? Did she want to speed it up because she felt like it? Did she accidentally do it? I don't know, but this particular nurse was a little attitudey and seemed kind of annoyed. She didn't stay with me too long, so I'm happy about that, because the other nurses and stuff that I had were delightful. They were really great. Talking it up, chatting it up, laughing. I think one of them was Haitian, so we was laughing and da da da. It was cool. This particular one was a little nasty, and she apparently seemed to be known to be a little nasty. So how intentful was it? I don't know. But when she was told like that's not what we agreed to, she was very like huffy about it. So I feel like she was trying to speed the shit up. So all right. So that was another reason or whatever. Now, going through the motions, I'm feeling pretty decent. All right, cool. Now, during this time, again, I'm being moved from side to side. Again, because I have that epidural, I got to make sure, to reduce clots. This, that, and there are so many reasons why they do this. Also, because of the baby, making sure the baby's good, the baby's being monitored. Now, in hindsight, this is why I can get emotional about it. But while it was happening, this is why I say I am happy with the experience that I had, because they did a great job of keeping me calm. Okay, I'm a person that experienced anxiety, and I'm still now going through postpartum anxiety. So I'm happy they did what they did. Even during my pregnancy, my anxiety was actually pretty good, praise God, because I did a lot of praying on it. So I didn't experience a lot of anxiety during my pregnancy. But I did have, during labor this day now, a peak in my blood pressure, but then it was regulated. No problem. However, the baby's heart rate kept dropping depending on the position that I was in. You know, they do, because I did a sonogram before I gave birth, and like I told you that day that I went, things look fine. Oh, that's another thing. They told me this child was going to be upwards of 7 pounds. This is important, because I'll tell you later why. You know, things looked okay. The fibroid was not obstructing. Things looked fine. So, you know, the baby's heart rate dropping in certain positions. They didn't know why, but okay, we'll just keep shifting it. And if anything happens, we'll just go back and whatever the case is. Now, I knew this stuff was happening, but I wasn't like super aware or cognizant, if that makes sense. Like, it's not I was drugged up or anything. Like, I wasn't aware, but I didn't know that it was a big deal. My midwives and did a good job. The nurses did a good job of really keeping things really even and calm and telling me to do certain things, but kept me calm, which was good. Like, I wasn't aware there was a problem. So this is what I'm trying to say. I wasn't aware that there was a problem. It wasn't until I actually gave birth that I was made to know that there was a problem, but they rectified it. And it wasn't until I was literally back home, maybe after, which I'll talk about, maybe home a week or so afterwards, that it hit me. Okay, so of really the severity of everything. So keep turning, and the baby's heart rate keeps dropping. When I keep turning in certain positions or whatever. So they're like, all right, turn this way. All right, turn, da 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 da. Okay. So now, again, I mentioned my blood pressure spiked like a few, like I think that they said like once or twice. Now I'm starting to be like, okay, feels like something really wants to fall out of my vagina. You know, I can't feel much, but I can feel that. You know, you feel pressure, you don't feel pain. So I'm like, it really feels like something wants to come out of my vagina. Okay, boom, let's check. And I was, you know, almost or just about fully dilated by the time they checked. So it did eventually, after the morning check, it took a few hours, but it went really fast afterwards. So it's like, cool. Now I was at this point though, like I mentioned before, I was effaced. I was completely effaced. So now that I'm feeling like, now that I'm dilated, I should have gave birth quickly, essentially, right? They're a little perplexed, like, why am I not, you know, like, why is the baby not coming out faster, you know? Because I'm like, I feel like someone's falling my vagina, and I'm pushing now and doing this, and I'm doing good pushes. They're telling me I'm doing good pushes, but it's still not coming down enough. And like, and there's instances where, like I was telling you, her heart rate is jumping. So try to figure it out. Now she gets down further enough, and so the doctor, I guess she puts her hands in. Girl, listen, the way your vagina is out and everybody's looking at it, that's number one. You don't even care at this point. Number two, the way they be sticking their hand. Anyway. Okay. So she does. I finally now been pushing for a good little bit, and then like not understanding why she's really not coming out now by this point. Come to find out, her umbilical cord is wrapped around her arm and her neck. So remember when I told y'all they had did an ultrasound to check the baby? This is supposed to be seen during an ultrasound. This is something, and also remember I told y'all that there was a possibility because the placenta was low towards the cervix that I might need a C-section, but then end up rectifying itself. What tends to happen sometimes when the placenta is lower towards the cervix is this issue. The umbilical cord there's a possibility that it can become a problem. Now they doing all these goddamn ultrasounds, and it was not seen, right? And number two, they told me this baby was going to be almost 8 pounds. My daughter was born 5 pounds and change. Completely full term, completely healthy. They check blood sugar and all that stuff. Because technically, if they're under 6, it's like, you know. She was over 5.5, but under 6. They want to make sure like there's not an issue with her metabolism, and they check her blood sugar, and she was completely perfect. She just was a small baby, period. And she's just a small kid. I'm not big, she's just small. You know what I mean? Like, you know. But my nigga, I'm sorry. How you go from almost 8-pound child to 5? That is completely off. You know what I'm saying? Completely off. But now let me go backwards a little bit. So when she finally gets down to a certain point where the midwife can put her hands in, this is when she realizes that the umbilical cord is wrapped. Doesn't alarm me. She doesn't alarm me at all. But what I do see is, but she does explain this to me. She's like, oh, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to call in the pediatrician to come in so that the pediatrician could be here to check the baby out. Now, she tells me this, and then like a little while after, what happens is it's like a little while after, so it's not like immediately after, but like while I'm still birthing, several people kind of come into the room that were not on my medical team. These were actual doctors, and I think it was the OB on call at the time. They come in and they kind of checking me, looking at me. They were also part of the reason that they lost the 0.5 from the 5, because they weren't, their bedside manner wasn't the best. And so they irritated me, and they were kind of like, ugh, you know what I mean? Because again, they know what's going on. I don't 100% know what's going on. You understand what I'm saying? So they're making sure things are moving this way, that way. I feel like they asked me something, or if I want to do something like that, or they was trying to do something. I was like, that's not what was agreed. Please speak to my midwife. And they did. And so my midwife came in and, you know, handled the issue, what was going on. And I don't see these people ever again. Like, I don't even see them again after that. But then now, you know, baby comes down further enough. The midwife is able to, like, all right, you know, keep pushing, you're doing great, blah, blah. Able to remove the cord from around her neck and her arm. Whew. I'm allowing myself to sit in the feeling. If y'all, I don't know this is happening while it's happening until after, right? But to know that this baby, she almost wasn't here, you know? And to know this for the things that I've experienced and endured after this, ooh, I've been through it, y'all. So the midwife, is handling all this, and she gets the cord out, boom, boom, boom. Like, she does it so quickly and swiftly. Oh, here's your baby. I never gave birth before, so she's a little bluey, but she's also still pink. Like, my baby was very pale, very pale. But like, they do this so smoothly, and this is why I said the experience to me was top tier. They do it so smoothly. Oh, here's your baby. They still allow me to hold the baby for a bit, but then like, okay, the pediatrician needs to look at that baby. Oh no, or do they pass the baby to a pediatrician first? I think they pass the baby to, no. See, this is a little hazy, because I just pushed the baby out, and once the baby's out, there's this like immense feeling of relief. Oh my God. Oh my God, the relief. You just feel so free. And this might be gross for some. It's like when you maybe been constipated or something, and you finally get it out, that feeling of like, oh, that's what it feels like. And so I'm kind of like in that moment still. So I'm gonna be 100% honest, I don't remember if they put her on me first and then she went to the pediatrician, but more than likely she went to the pediatrician first. Pediatrician really quickly assesses her, make sure she's good. No, that's not true. They put her on me first for a few, because she was breathing, and she, you know, she cried. Or did she cry? I don't know if she cried really, but she was breathing. But she was bluey, because you can see now when you look back at pictures and you see her, you're like, oh, okay, she looks blue. You know what I'm saying? Oh. Oh. Ooh. I just thank God in the moment. I thank God for that team. I thank God. Okay. So she, so then, okay, yeah. So they put her on me for a little bit. Then and so during this time too, another reason it's good to have a doula, she's taking pictures and stuff, because you and your partner, you're not thinking about this stuff, so she's taking pictures. So this is why I even have these pictures. And so now the pediatrician has her checking her, making sure, she's responding and she's doing the things that she needs to do. And after that, you get to do skin to skin. She did skin to skin with her father first, which was fine, because I was really just like it's like feels surreal. You feel like you're having an out of body experience. And I felt a lot of like that a lot of the pregnancy, but definitely during labor and birth. She has her skin to skin. I mean, she technically was in me for 10 months, so it's like, cool, bro, you got it. And Dula's taking pictures and stuff. And I'm literally just bawling, because I'm like, oh my God, thank God. Like, not even because I'm registering what just happened, because I still didn't register it. Like, it still didn't hit me. But like, I'm like, thank God this is over. Oh my God. Like, I'm literally just like, thank you, God. I made it. Thank you, God. She made it, just, oh, it's a moment. It's a moment. And I'm just so like, oh, thank goodness. And then I get to do skin to skin. And now, because she was born so small, and this is another thing to prep for, and these are things also, these are part of your birthing plan that you can have too. What type of treatments you want your child to have after they're born. There's some things that, depending on the state you're in, that's required, that has to be done. I think the vitamin K drops in the eyes have to be done. Another thing that's optional is the hepatitis A vaccine, or is it B? Not A, B? One of them, child, I don't remember. One of them is something they say they do at the hospital, but it's not necessarily something you have to do. You can do it at your first pediatrician visit, so you don't have to do right then and there. But there's some things that have to be done and some things that don't, that you can do when they see their pediatrician. And that's something you have to do. Find a pediatrician before they release you from the hospital. You have to give them pediatrician information. So do your research while you're pregnant and interview pediatricians, because that's also a thing that I did to find the right pediatrician for you. But we could talk about that if y'all want an episode on how to do that. That's also something we could talk about. So there were certain things I said she could have this, but not this. But also, because she was born under the 6 pound mark, she was literally like a few ounces under 6 pounds. They have to keep checking her blood sugar. So they kept pricking her and taking blood from her. So, and then also, that's another thing. I had wanted to breastfeed her. And so there was nothing wrong with my milk supply.
In this day and age, you shouldn't have to choose between being present for your child and your job. You shouldn't have to choose between your mental, emotional, physical health, and your livelihood. Both can exist, both can thrive. I'm here to help you achieve that. Empower your parenting journey with a workplace accommodation consultation with AJO Consulting Services now.
My milk came down, everything was fine. However, because of they wanted to check her blood sugar, something had to do with her blood sugar, they gave her formula. Okay, if that's something you don't want, you have to make clear you don't want to give your child formula, because they will automatically do it. Some places will automatically do it. They won't even ask you if you're breastfeeding. They won't even care about that. So if that's something you do not want to give your child, don't do it. But in my child's case, I had to give her formula. I still got to breastfeed her. I did all the stuff, like I got to do all that stuff, but because of her, they wanted to make sure she was good and her blood sugar, they wanted to make sure essentially that her system was working properly, and that wasn't the reason why she was so small, right? So they wanted to see how she was metabolizing food, essentially. I believe that's why they were testing her blood sugar, to make sure once she got food in her system, was her system breaking it down properly. Cool. It was no problem. So they gave her the formula, but I was also still able to give her, she latched on, everything worked perfectly. And then my midwives walked me through that whole process. So it felt very surreal. Again, I told you this, that I was not a hospital girly, so I wanted to be out. Now, depending on your insurance, I think they pay up until 2 or 3 days that you could be at the hospital. If everything is cool, you can technically leave. I think after 24 hours or something like that, I believe. But then that would be like, you have to put your sign paperwork, like, I'm choosing to leave before da da da. And so I ended up, everything was cool with her. All her stuff came back. She was perfect. She was fine. Nothing, there was nothing wrong with her system, anything like that. And I was checking out fine. They checked. I passed my placenta. Oh, let's backtrack. Some things that I did do and things that did happen. This adds on to the postpartum piece that I'll get into in another episode. But I got my placenta. I did not let the hospital keep my placenta. That is a personal choice. That is up to you. They make money off your placenta. They use it for research. If you're uncomfortable with that, you can keep it for yourself. You can plant it. You can turn them into pills. You can turn them into things. I chose that option. I got my placenta turned into pills and other things. And so my placenta passed. It was taken, given to the person who was doing whatever I need to do with it. That's a process. Again, if y'all want more information, I can let you know. After that, they kind of like press on your stomach to make sure everything is out of your uterus. During this time, they're like, wow, you didn't bleed a lot. This was pretty much a non-messy birth. In my mind, I'm thinking, oh, maybe because most of my water, the amniotic fluid and stuff kind of passed when I was home. I don't know. But they're like, the amount of blood and stuff I lost during was very minimal, they said. Like, they gave me so many compliments on how I birthed. And the after, to me, what does that mean to me? I don't know what none of this stuff means to me. I've never given birth, right? But to them, like, I'm just talking about not just that midwife, but other midwives, because they give each other reports, nurses, other people telling me, oh my gosh, you birthed so well, da da da. Okay, thanks. I don't know how I'm supposed to respond to this. Thank you. This is important for later on. So now, been in the hospital a day, and I chose to leave before the full amount of time because I don't want to be in the hospital. It's COVID still, and I want to go home. The hospital's cold. You don't really get to rest. They're constantly coming in, pricking the baby, waking you up to do this, that, and the third. I want to go home. Right? So I decide that that's what I'm gonna do. And what I do is, because I have a postpartum plan in place and I've told everybody, I and pretty much myself, the child's father, the baby, not entertaining visitors for at least a week. The first week that we're home, we're not entertaining anybody. We'll let you know when we entertaining visitors. But for the grandparents, y'all can come and see the baby in the hospital before we leave. So we end up doing that before we leave, and so the grandparents get to see the baby. And so that's done, and they'll end up that night, I end up going home. So now I gave birth on a Tuesday. We stayed till Wednesday. We stayed till Wednesday night at the hospital. So went home that night, so happy and scary and weird. This whole time you're in the haze. Let me repeat that. I was in the haze. I don't know if everybody else felt this, but you just feel like out of body. You're still in the haze. Like, this shit is real, but it's not. Who baby is this? It's mine. Okay. If you say so. Cool. Like, you feel weird. Your insides feel weird. It's just strange. It's just so strange. That's the best way for me to explain it to you. You just still don't feel like your body is yours, even though you feel more comfort in the body. It just still feels strange. But while in the hospital, I love ULA. I just had a great experience with their midwives. And when we got to the delivery part, I guess like postpartum part of the hospital, the nurses and stuff, they're, again, nice. The midwives came in, and they were, talking to me, and they spent time with you. Even when I was giving birth, they didn't just come in, all right, you good, all right, and walk out. That's, to me, was important, and I love that. And same thing to do with, I had my prenatal visits. They spent at least an hour, 45 minutes, an hour with you, talking to you, answering your questions. They actually only did physical things with you, maybe 15, 20 minutes, and the rest of the time they're talking to you. That made you feel so comfortable. In the hospital, same thing. Same thing. They sat with you, they talk to you, everything's okay, you good, all right. Even after they checked you and did whatever they need to do, they're talking, joking, like talking about their own lives. It felt good and comfortable. And so when I was there, same thing. There was a newer midwife who had just came on, so I didn't see her in the office because she was hired after, my timing, but she had started recently. But she came because she was like, I want to introduce myself. She was the Black midwife, and she was also Haitian. So like, she was talking to my family. It was just nice. It felt so nice. It was good. And she was also, teaching me how to latch and stuff. And there was a lactation consultant who came in. So, but she was also there helping and like talking to me and telling me this and then asking me about my experience. How did I feel? And blah, blah, blah. It just was nice. And so I felt good and comfortable. We go home, and my sister, I, again, didn't know how labor and birth was supposed to go. So my house was baby ready, but not like 100%. I'm me. I don't know if it's a Haitian thing. I don't know. But like that one big final clean, I had someone come in to clean for me. But, just kind of like a little upkeep before the baby actually shows up. Like, that's something that we do for each other. At least my family does. And so, like, I didn't get to do that myself. And so my sister went over my place with my nephew, and they were, like, cleaned up for me. And she cooked and stuff. So it was nice. So when we came home, they were, like, the first people that were able to meet the baby, essentially, because they were at my house, right? Because they cleaned up for me and stuff. And so it was just surreal. It just felt, like I said, out of body, but it felt nice to be home. And it felt like, okay, it's all done now. Oh, but it wasn't. Oh, but it was not done. And so I'll leave the rest of that for another episode, because this episode is super long. I didn't realize it's gonna be this long, but I'm giving y'all something to eat. You know what I'm saying? I'm giving y'all something to chew on. Because there's more, is all I'm gonna say. There is absolutely more. All right, so thank you all for y'all who's still listening and tuning in. I'm sure it might be interesting for some, and so this is like a great story to hear. Thank you for riding the motions out with me. There's going to be more. Okay, just so you're aware, there will be more, and this is why it's been so much, y'all. And I'm going to share a lot. I'm not sure how much like extra detail I might share, but I'm thinking about it. I'm still mulling over how much I want to share for sure. But I'm giving y'all a lot though. But yeah, till next episode. Bye.
Thank you for tuning into this week's episode of the Oasis Podcast. I hope you were able to find something that resonated with you on your journey. Don't forget to subscribe anywhere you listen to podcasts and YouTube. Rate us and leave us a review and comment on Apple Podcasts, iTunes, and YouTube. Share your favorite episode and like us on Instagram and Facebook. If you have any questions, comments, want to be a guest, or any show ideas, contact us at ajaysoasis@gmail.com. That's AAYJAYSOASIS@gmail.com. Or direct message us on Instagram and Facebook.